Well, hello there. Welcome to Day 9 Daily number 265. Oh, it's a daily on the road. I am, as you can see, I'm at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. You can't see some of those because, of course, they're off the camera, but we just wrapped up doing casting of Day 1 for today, and they let me pop into the studio, so I'm going to be recording a daily real fast. Nothing too extravagant, just a little tearing versus tearing between SeleCT and Jinro, two of my favorite players alive. Both of them are quite handsome. But one of the big reasons why we're doing today's daily is to announce the winner of the Kingston HyperX Community Pro for a Day competition. It is Mackenzie Gardner for his amazing unit impersonations. In fact, I have a log list of all sorts of amazing stuff that he has won, but the most noteworthy of which is the fact that he will be able to spend the day now with myself and In Control all the way out at the Penny Arcade Expo. Congrats to him once again. You should definitely go to facebook.com/HyperXCommunity to see his video because it was so funny, his unit impersonations. He also gets a PC game of his choice, a lesson with In Control, SteelSeries product pack, DIY gaming rig, HyperX Genesis memory, some i7 Intel Core stuff, Intel Extreme motherboard. Oh my gosh, I love i7s. They're so good for video encoding. But you know what? I don't even have to worry about the video encode today because I am streaming, and ideally my buddy Eric will download this and upload it somewhere useful. Thank you, Eric. You're a fine, suave gentleman. So I'm sure many of you got the chance to tune into some of that IEM action today. If you didn't, tune in tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, because it's going to be going on all week. Without any further ado, I would like to go into this little Terran vs. Terran that we have. Kind of have a ghetto setup. I have to reach all the way over here, and then, oh, there we go. We're popping directly into the game. We're just going to have ourselves a fun, nice, happy little analysis. Oh, that's right. I can even control the audio mixing. Check this out again. Check this out, guys. Whoa! Very good. Excellent. Fantastic. We have Liquid Jinro on the top left of Delta Quadrant. In the bottom right, we have none other than SeleCT as the red Terran. And you know, this is a map that I really don't like very much. It's a little bit cramped, it's a little bit awkward in every possible single way, close positions. Huge amount of space back here, but you know what? Terran vs. Terran can result in some pretty cool positioning and dingas. So we will end up mentioning that from time to time. Here comes SeleCT's first dude out to make a supply depot. Very good. And we also have Jinro, who, doing a defensive supply depot. Oh, what a sissy girl. Now, I will admit, because of the fact that everyone is waiting for me to go back to the hotel to go to sleep, I'm just going to be nice and hit this plus button. Do not want to be too rude and delay too long, so let's go ahead and wait till we get to some interesting meat. I'm anticipating this daily will be close to 20 to 30 minutes, nothing too extravagant. Just, of course, want to give a huge shout out again to the lovely Mackenzie Gardner for doing those great unit impersonations. As usual, we have the barracks refinery type action. I don't think that it's necessarily good to do some sort of one barracks expand on this map because you're so freaking close to your opponent, but you know what? Closeness aside, I just want to point this out. Look at this area, right? Here's your expansions. Then you think, okay, cool, I'm going to have some Marines here. But I'm actually going to move over here, so that way you can follow my mouse to the mini-map. Look at Jinro's space here, if he expands, versus his main. Notice that, like, I'm starting to make this hill shape, right? I'm looping around where the natural is, and I'm looping back around those top minerals. That can be hit from air from all sides. This expansion, we can be hit from a Banshee from the right. We can have a Banshee move directly in the front and pick at our Marines. We can have a Banshee move over here to our ramp and do damage. We can have a Banshee trying to poke in from the side and picking off buildings or units that just got finished. We can have a Banshee come up here and do damage to the workers, a Banshee coming up here doing damage to the gas, or a Banshee all the way back around here again picking off minerals that are expo from the other side. That is the big reason that I am kind of an anti-early expander. A lot of fast Banshee action does way more damage than it should, largely due to the fact that there's just an almost impossibility of covering it with enough turrets. So we do see that SeleCT is getting his orbital command. Great. We see that there is a Mariner coming out for SeleCT. We see that the exact same thing's happening in Camp Jinro. Let's go ahead and speed things up till we start to see something that is noteworthy enough for us to go, ooh, pause, pause, pause. Both of them. Indeed, ooh, we see a little bit of aggression coming out here from SeleCT. He's very, very active about this sort of thing. Look at this. This is one of those hallmarks of expert play, right? The fact that he is, like, moving his Marine this far out and manages to successfully do some serious hurt to the SCV. Jinro getting his barracks with a reactor first, and then we see SeleCT. Looks like he's not getting a reactor first, but instead opting for a second gas. Is his second gas a little bit ahead of Jinro's? Dr. Jinro looks like he went for a way mondo fast second gas. Jinro going a little bit crazy. To be blunt, a lot of people love getting this very early reactor just so they can begin doing a whole bunch of Marine production for a big Marine tank push. This is kind of a one-basing play. This is intending to do some kind of big pressure to your opponent early on. This is a little more nimble. This can be a little bit more tech-oriented because we're not wasting a ton of money on Marines. We're not going to be wasting a ton of money getting all sorts of crazy units out that fast, but I would probably lean towards something like Banshee play from SeleCT. I would imagine that there'd be a tech lab popping down immediately on this factory. Yep, there it is. Because this is the standard way to have a big one-base push. For any of you who just did not know this is your standard. There you go. Ain't that normal looking? That's what you want to be getting. The barracks with reactor first, the factory with the tech lab second, and the starport third for Marine, Tank, Viking all damn day. Now we see Select going for the more aggressive build. He's going to be going for, it looks like some Marines first, and then he's getting his Hellion. And then he's going to be adding on a couple more Marines. This is a little bit earlier of an aggressive play from Select. You still want a good amount of Marines. Some of you might be asking, well, why get this reactor at all? Why not just stick with a low Marine count? And then that way, I can end up busting my way forth with a faster push, or I can even just save a little bit of money while getting this reactor. The answer, in a lot of circumstances, is just when you kind of want to time your expansion. A lot of times you can just completely avoid getting this reactor. In a lot of circumstances, though, you kind of just want a reactor anyways, like one barracks, or excuse me, one reactor, one tech lab, so it's good to kind of have an excuse for when to put it down in the first place. Now I'm going to pause this game and just sip some of this delicious water. Just listen to me. Oh my gosh, that's delicious. I have been casting so much today that my throat is a little bit dry, and this bubbly water is phenomenal. Another reason why a lot of times you'll end up getting a reactor barracks is with most tech openings, you just don't have anything else really. You're doing the tech thing, so in this case, this is the starport with the cloak. This could even be something like a factory going for Blue Flame Hellions with drop, right? That's a tech play. Or you might be going for something like a Thor. Like, I'm going to group Cloaked Banshees or Blue Flame Hellion drop or Thor, all those, I'm just going to call those tech. Even if you go for a Raven, I'm going to call that big tech play. You need something else to help keep you alive, and Double Marine is just very, 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 very smart and effective. So here comes Jinro gearing up to do his big, typical one-base push. There's Select with a very nice timing on that scan. Notice that this scan happens right when there would be any noteworthy switching. I mean, even note from Select's point of view, Select is going for Cloaked Banshees. If Select scans right now, he can still see if his opponent has a halfway done Banshee. Because Select knows my Banshee isn't halfway done, he knows that your Banshee can only be about halfway done. Yep, Jinro doing a very aggressive play. This is an interesting little mix-up that people have been doing a lot more and more recently. They're just dishing out a very fast medevac that's going to allow the push to accelerate its pace a little bit. Banshee now out. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We're even noticing things like Jinro is, getting the siege mode and all this stuff. What I want to note about this play, this is actually kind of funny because this, in my eyes, is like so basic grunt work standard. Perhaps my perception is skewed because I do this. This is one of those very, very just normal one-basing thing. There's no way to really make this any more usual. Again, Barracks Reactor, then Factory Tech Lab, then Starport. But I want you to note that you kind of have to make yourself be a little bit more aggressive with this. A lot of people do this style, and then they're like, oh, I'll just get some Vikings, and I'll take these tanks, and I'll siege them up here and defend. You kind of got to man up, you know? If you're going one base heavy, you got to be getting in his face heavy, right? So make sure that you're being pretty proactive about being responsible in terms of your tech choices. Make sure you're getting this siege tank with siege mode and this sort of thing. Make sure you're really getting up in your opponent's face. Don't be afraid to be don't be too timid when you're doing this sort of style. And as usual, we see that Select is getting a little bit busted in the front because that's kind of what happens when you do this style of play and you're not careful. Banshee moving in, getting cloaked. Oh! This is also very typical. You leave a Viking at home, you build one turret in the middle, not so much because it will actually shoot the Banshee, but because it can detect very far. Notice that this Viking is able to do damage to this Banshee. And this, oh my goodness, this is looking very, very not so good, as we see that there's a barracks already dead. I have a belch incoming. It will soon evict itself from my body. Ah, yes, very good. So, by the way, that is the most classic move in the world. This is another big reason why you get a medevac kind of fast. If you think your opponent is doing some sort of, Banshee play, you pop right back into the medevac, and oh, look, your unit that can deal damage. Hey, what's up? I'm flying right next to you. Yeah. So, now we have somewhat of an awkward situation for both players, actually. Really, Jinro's is much less awkward, because you know what? Hey, this is what's fun about doing this 1-1-1 heavy style with one reactor and two tech labs. You can just do the intuitive thing. I need detection. I will get a Raven. If you're feeling ultra desperate, you can always pop this factory off and plant that starport in there. What I'm sure we're starting to really see here the obvious flexibility of the 1-1-1, but I want to emphasize how important it is to begin this reactor production earlier and to be a fucking man when you do this, you know what I mean? To move out a lot, to be aggressive, to not be afraid, to get in that siege mode, to not be afraid of the fact that there's no expansion started as of this point. Oh wow, only just now starting. Let's come back and talk about SeleCT's gameplay a little bit, because that's perhaps a little bit more the unusual choice. Banshees continue to float in here, do as much damage as humanly possible, trying largely to peel Jinro's aggression away. If Jinro elects not to be aggressive and pull back, SeleCT is happy. If Jinro chooses to be aggressive and ignore this Banshee threat, he'll end up losing a lot of stuff back home. And this is one of those things where you kind of have to be, like, heat-of-the-moment focused. People tend to think of the Banshee as a unit that is just for harassment, just for poking and prodding, but I want to emphasize to you that the Banshee is a very good emergency, holy shit, I might lose this game, what can I build to help me keep alive? It is the Banshee. Because if your opponent is low on cloaks, or excuse me, low on scans, he can end up picking off, or you can end up forcing him to waste scans, or forcing him to be passive. If his tanks get a little bit out of position, you can deal a lot of hurt there. Oh, of course, SeleCT messed that up a little bit. Yeah, look at this. Banshee punishing 2 tanks very easily, and then suddenly Jinro's kind of going, ah, damn it, and having to pull back, and SeleCT is able to kind of buckle down a little bit harder. And indeed, we see that the Vikings are starting to push back. Pretty cool stuff, pretty cool stuff, pretty good stuff. Not bad at all. There's the command center, getting close to done, but SeleCT is under such horrible situations right here. Well, you know what? I just said that kind of haphazardly. I was actually thinking about sleeping, because I'm a little bit of a sleepy boy. Let's actually come back and look at this a little bit more objectively. There was actually a game at IEM today where a Terran player was right up in another Terran player's face. It looked like this. It looked like Jinro, right? Jinro was like, oh yeah, really doing some damage. And the opponent was looking like SeleCT, was looking like he was losing a lot of stuff. In fact, there was even tanks over here in the IEM game today. It was pretty hairy looking for the player who was in SeleCT's position. And then the player defended, killed this off, and immediately won the game, right? And as we can see here in the resource station, looks like, wow, is SeleCT actually ahead in food? Look at the unit counting station. Oh, wow. Jinro lost a lot of SCVs. We even see that there's, basically same Marine counts. Looks like there's even a Banshee out for Jinro, right? This is actually closer than you might imagine. And this shocks a lot of people. And I want to emphasize that with a build like this, you're not going to be drastically ahead of your opponent. You need to really man up and try to drill into him hard. Because chances are you're probably pretty even. If he's trying to do something fancy and techy, he probably is, getting a little bit ahead as long as he's left alone. And you got to not leave him alone. Harass him. Bring on the harassment. Harassing. No, this is not a yawn because this game is boring. This is a yawn because I am in Germany time. And I had to get up at 5:30. Oh, was that brutal. Siege tank, again, taking some damage. Notice how these Banshees always are able to punish siege tanks a little bit out of position. Feel free to experiment around with some late-game Banshees and see how they end up feeling. SeleCT is pretty good at this. Drag all my SCVs into the fray, and as we see, it successfully lost him half his freaking SCVs. And in the resource station, we see SeleCT is looking awfully behind, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of being a man, right? This is the man cam that we're looking at right now. Jinro, yeah, manning it up, pushing back hard on SeleCT, forcing SeleCT to sort of cower back and head for the hills with the tail between the legs. Now, generally, I don't recommend too much deviation from the 1-1-1 mix on one base. Once you start to get a second base up, yeah, you can begin adding on some more barracks, or if you're the king of unorthodoxy, you can add on extra factories, which is not actually that unorthodox, but still, I'm going to say it in a funny-sounding voice because I feel like it. I don't really want you deviating too much from this, but what Jinro is doing, again, is just so freaking gosh damn darn normal. He's getting a whole bunch of barracks, and what you typically see here is no real change in production of these two structures, but mass Marines from these ones, and then you start to see a tech lab on this one, a tech lab on this one, and the plus stim plus combat shield upgrades ensue. There is the Banshee for SeleCT moving out. And I'm just trying to poke around and sort of look. Oh yeah, look at SeleCT doing the identical maneuver. This will no doubt be the plus upgrades. I'm actually just going to hang out here just to prove to you my everlasting patience. There's a Banshee doing harassment over there, but come on, SeleCT. Build a combat shield, SeleCT. Alright, I'm drawn by the power of the Banshee. Now, I want to emphasize that a lot of people look at this map and go, Banshee is good here because space here. I want you to always look at the main connecting to the natural expansion, and that should be the way you consider how much damage air can do. Here's the connection line from here to here. Or, you know what, even more explicitly from here, down this ramp, and then back to there. If that any border of that connection line is vulnerable. So right now we're seeing this Banshee do damage here, like right in this region. This is an aspect of Delta Quadrant that SeleCT is abusing marvelously. This is fantastic. And I want you to be very, very aware of this. Probably so many people who play Temple a lot, you know, or Metalopolis a lot, kind of feel, you know, I should be safe with this expansion, but then you suddenly, you know, do something like expand on Steps of War on Delta Quadrant, and suddenly the player doing the exact same build feels so much harder to deal with, and the fact of the matter is that he is. So that's another reason why I really love that Jinro did the I'm sticking on one base for as long as I possibly can, because it's just so hard to defend that much space. I mean, even Jinro, he's getting late Banshees. Pretty common in this matchup, but I think only at the really high levels. A lot of you are playing, whoa, really late Banshees? Yeah, you know what? On this map, late Banshees makes a hell of a lot of sense, because we can continue to abuse this huge border. Looks like Banshee from SeleCT doing infinite damage. I cannot believe that Jinro's actually letting it do this much damage. We're seeing resource-wise, oh my goodness, whole lot of little closure in terms of that gap. Was about a 25 food gap, getting smaller all the time. This is a huge damn deal. Cloak it, SeleCT. No, oh darn. That would have made the game a little bit more close, which of course is not the point of the daily. We don't want close games, we want one-sided games. We love our one-sided games. That helps us be a one-sided gamer. Oops, still hasn't gotten that combat shield. No big deal. Again, make sure those line up. Play with your Legos a little bit of extra time at night to make sure that nothing bad can happen. And here we have ourselves some usual battles. Now, this is the difference between, I would call the mid-tier Terrans and the top-tier Terrans. The mid-tier Terrans can all do Marine Tank Medevac, right? Excuse me, Marine Tank Viking. Mid-tier Terrans, all Marine Tank Viking. But a Banshee thrown into that mix, that's what really ends up getting some pro-dom going on there. Trying to poke around here, looks like we just have a couple of spotters looking around, a bunker starting to finish on up. Do begin to see tankies getting made, starport getting added on. Now here's an interesting question. Why would SeleCT end up getting the reactor starport? We move on over to Jinro's base, and he also seems to have gotten a reactor starport too. Here's another huge aspect of the mid-game in Terran vs. Terran. First, let's talk about the early game, right? Da-da-da-da-da. Cool! Alright, getting getting these three structures. Barracks, factory, starport. 1, 1, 1. One barracks, one factory, one starport. Good. And then we got 3 more barracks. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. That's what we did once we got our expansion up. And then when we started being aggressive, wah! That's when we got this reactor starport. Why? Why did we do that? Because we really need vision range on our tanks. We really desperately need vision range. He who controls the air controls the vision in this game. So we're starting to see, oh man, yeah, wow, SeleCT has to pull back. He only has 1 Viking. And because Jinro has more air units, he's going to begin encroaching with these Vikings and tanks, and specifically this Banshee. That's another battle way that cannot be forgotten. The tank advancement is quite slow. The Banshee advancement is quite fast. Yep, see, here's the advancing forward. And look at SeleCT having to spend a scan. Now, I would venture to say that Jinro does end up winning this game. That would make sense for me, because of the fact that he has a good contained setup here, and also because he's doing a good job trying to exploit this vision advantage, right, by getting this reactor starport. And SeleCT is also combating by getting a reactor starport as well. Yeah, look at this. 3 barracks out right now. Why are none of them making Marauders or even Marines? Because we want tanks to bolster and strengthen and defend against an invasion, and then we want Vikings to bolster all those tanks. A real big mistake people make is they start to go, ooh, well, let me try to get some Marauders to kill these off. Very good. And in the meantime, these Vikings start picking farther and farther forwards. The Marauders that were rallied here become rallied here, become rallied here, and then I'm lifting off this thing. And then when I finally feel like I have enough Marauders, he not only has more stuff than I do, but has, you know, more Banshees and air and shit anyways. So a lot of times you kind of have to keep up with this tank production, and this trying to make more Vikings thing is an extension bolster the tanks. Notice that these Vikings are having to be passive to get repaired. These Vikings get to be active because they are repaired. Gadoosh! Bam! Shooting tanks. Yep, and see, look at how vision is becoming a key commodity in this game. Players rearranging Vikings to do Viking battling warfare. Really, Jinro should have had the advantage, should have been closing the deal, should have been narrowing the chances of victory for our good friend SeleCT, but SeleCT knows what battle he needs to fight, a vision fight. When would this not be the case? When would vision not really be a big deal? Anytime you have more space. So for instance, if Jinro's tanks were here and SeleCT's tanks were here, SeleCT would have all the freedom to move down here, you have the freedom to move up here, he'd just have freedom, 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 right? He would have freedom out his freaking ass. And, you know, even a map like Lost Temple, yeah, if you can start moving around and you have a lot of maneuverability, the tanks hate that, yeah. Vision helps you see farther with your tanks, but I mean, Vikings will never let you look at ground and go, oh yeah, I guess I can move my Marines and Marauders here, right? You just kind of tend to walk your Marines and Marauders there. More Vikings coming out, some very cool battlage, I think this is actually very impressive that Select is not actually building out of these barracks for a very long time. He knows very clearly where his resources absolutely must be devoted to. And let's actually come down to Camp Jinro. Just looking at Jinro, I mean, these are the most important production bad guys right now. You need to be making a lot of Vikings. Anytime a player messes up with the Vikings, that's going to be enormous. Select is just doing an incredible dance with those Vikings. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal job. I'm almost becoming a fanboy here. I'm like, ooh, who's going to win? I actually really like both of these guys. Yeah. I just would like to point out for the record that Jinro's amassing of all these Marines and Marauders have not really gotten to dictate much. We see in the unit station, we see look at 27 Marines, 5 Marauders, 5 tanks. But hey, you know what? 7 Vikings versus 8 Vikings. And 5 tanks versus 5 tanks. You know what? That vision advantage is really good, looking good for Select. And he's getting his command center here. This is just very smart decision-making by Select. Continuing to pick off Vikings one at a time, trying to draw this army out. Oh! Losing off that Banshee. Tank blast. Bam. Boom. Dish. Trying to find anything he can, and ooh! Even sacking a scan to maybe pick off another of those units from the air. I just cannot believe quite how brilliantly Select is playing. You know, this is kind of funny. Jinro's like, screw this, I'm backing off, right? I don't need to encroach anymore. I've lost the vision advantage. I can't use my vision to slowly eke up on these tanks. No, Select's been doing a good job keeping the vision advantage. And remember, every time I say vision advantage, I really mean air advantage. And this is what's kind of funny, is that a lot of mid-tier players will say something like, oh, they're just making tanks and Marines, and they're just, oh, it's boring, oh, there's no strategy going on. This is like nothing but intense strategy based upon lots of counting and units and subtle adjusting. I mean, if for some reason Select really started to lose track of the air battle, he would either have to, you know, begin adding on more starports, or he would suddenly flood with a whole bunch of barracks units and really begin getting ultra aggro by like swinging around these edges, that sort of thing, or maybe even doing some drops. Select manages to get an expansion up impressively enough. Select is going to get an opportunity to pull ahead in this fight. Yeah, look at this. His income is way ahead. I even know there's some mules out. Yeah, look at that, 3 mules. I know. But still, Select is just playing so great. And there's the other factory going down. Now, one thing about general compositions on Delta Quadrant. Obviously, you heard me say things like Banshees are good because they can do damage to this general region and that sort of jazz. One thing I want to note is I call it a... what do I want to call that? I said, I call it A, and then realized I didn't even have a word for it. Very good, Day 9. But Phoenix does this thing where he'll siege up, you know, a lot of tanks here, you know, maybe some tanks here to take the gold, but then he'll have a hyper-mobile force of Marines and Marauders. Like, the Marines and Marauders will be off doing their own thing, and the tanks will really largely play a defensive role, and I especially love that on this map because of the fact that, you know, you really can close off a lot of essential attack paths and even expo paths just by having a good amount of tanks. Day 9 going to go to bed after this. It's going to be exciting. So now I'm very curious to see how Jinro is going to be playing this out. He clearly has more space here, and I love this sensor tower choice. This is one of the smartest locations to plant a sensor tower on this map. Do this. Do this if you can. Here's that sort of mobile Marine idea. Jinro's adding a couple tanks into the mix. But, you know, if he had a larger Marine Marauder army, he would absolutely be just sort of moving out with just his Marines and Marauders and leaving those tanks up in mid. But nothing wrong with just having a couple tanks to bolster. Again, Jinro does not really want to lose the vision advantage, so he's going to keep adding on those. And this is just the general stranglehold. We're starting to slowly pass the point where we have to know exactly what unit to devote our resources to, because we can devote our resources to that unit and expand at the same time, which is really what we're seeing both players utilize. Also, for you Terran buddies who were not aware, you can really get away with almost all orbital commands. You don't really need that many planetary fortresses in this matchup. And speeding things right along. Selective has his backdoor base, is not really able to make the greatest use of it, continuing to make tanks 2 at a time. Sneaking around to try to do a drop, but Jinro is the king of being drop-proof. I mean, look at that mini-map. That's pretty darn cool. And hey, look, we have a very small force of Marines starting to dart around. One of my favorite techniques. Oh, I cannot tell you how much I love dragging my entire Marine Marauder force somewhere else, somewhere other than my tanks. Oh, this is so cool by Select. Love this sort of good jazz. And one thing that's actually probably the most noteworthy theme that Jinro is going to be doing is just to keep very tight, organized armies, right? When you're controlling the center, weirdly enough, it feels harder than what SeleCT's doing. What SeleCT's doing, overall, is intuitively easy. Look at this. Siege tanks at my front, defended my front. I'm going to try to make an attack over here. Did it work? Yeah, I guess I'll pull back. I'm going to do a drop over here. Did it work? We'll see, you know, this sort of thing. With Jinro, it's very easy when you're in here to kind of just go, oh shit, there's stuff moving here. Oh shit, there's stuff. Oh my god, is there a drop? I go, there's a Banshee. It's really easy to start getting disorganized because there's so much space you need to worry about. I mean, really, just to follow along with me, there's this entrance over here and this part of the middle in this area, and of course worrying about the front swing all the way over here, and then of course all the drop paths on the map. Holy cow, so Jinro just needs to be very, very careful. At this point in the game, if you're Jinro, you're going to feel like you cannot attack ever. You're going to feel like you're constantly scrambling in defense, and that is correct. That is exactly how you should feel. If you feel that way, you're probably doing things correct. You just need to keep a good eye on that expo count. So SeleCT doing, again, the very Phoenix-like move. He has a lot of tanks clustered up, and he's starting to get these mobile forces of Marines up. Could probably invest in some more reactors at some point. But I really do love the double factory play, just for defensive purposes. And then doing this sort of thing, one of my absolute favorite things in the world. Phoenix is a genius at doing this sort of thing, all these little ninja counterattacks. Because again, Jinro is just kind of like, oh my gosh, I have to cover so much ground. All those SCVs gone, and there, oh, starting to pick off some Vikings. Looks like he's going to end up losing quite a bit of stuff. But that's okay, because you know what? At all points in time, SeleCT was defended. Oh, this is such a marvelous little game. What a wonderful little game we see happening right here. SeleCT getting a little overeager with that S button, just siege, 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 siege. Trying to move out as fast as possible. That generally happens when you're feeling a lot of pressure. Your fingers begin to take control. And then, this is, again, exactly how your game should look. That you are, oh gosh, oh gosh, whoopsie daisy, sorry. Sped through that a little bit, but, you know, again, they're trying to kick me out, so no big deal. Jinro is going to be defending, 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 and then when he feels like he has a window, he's going to attack once, and it should end the game. That's the way it should work if you're kind of being the expanding, more forwardly planted Terran player. If you are being, you know, forward and aggressive, and you're attacking and dropping and whittling him down, something sounds a little bit wrong about that. You shouldn't have enough money to both contain and be aggressive with drops and expand and have a bigger army than him. It's just, your opponent would have to be just horrendous for that to be the case. But it looks like Jinro may have gotten himself a little overeager because SeleCT somehow might be coming out on top. Holy crap! How did this happen? Oh my gosh. I'm actually going to have to rewind to go check out that battle that I ended up blasting through. There's another drop coming in at the north. I'm actually starting to get intrigued. Does SeleCT actually manage to pull this win? I mean, at this point in time, it looks like that's exactly what's going on. We're going to have to review. It will almost have to be like a real Day 9 daily, where something intriguing happens in this matchup, and we have to rewind to talk about it. I'm actually going to speed things up at this point in time because, again, yeah, you know, SeleCT just has to win at this point in time. There's almost no way that he can lose. Wow, I'm actually just spellbound. SeleCT, you're good, man. Wow. Wow. And he kills it off. I really don't believe it. Really. I'm actually going to pop this replay bar up because I know it ends rather shortly, and as you can see, it ends rather shortly too. But I want to come back to here where SeleCT began to do a really good job with these runaround drops. Let's actually look at the food and the mini-map together. Let's just do that. Alright, look at the food with me. Jinro has a bigger army, but he has a lot of Marines and Marauders, and what really sucks is that these Marines literally didn't get to do anything all game long. This is 24 Marines, basically. Imagine this food count dropped by 24. Basically, they are at even food, because these Marines are effectively doing nothing. 0, 0. So again, anytime you're forwardly planted, again, let's glance at the minimap and glance at the food. Anytime you're forwardly planted, you need to worry about all the various counterattack paths, all the roundabout Aruha paths that could possibly end up killing you. So we have this little contain action set up. SeleCT's style feels easier. It should feel easy when you're the ultra defensive player. It's okay if you feel like you're going to lose, but to do what you need to do should feel easy. I'm going to defend my front. I'm going to try to attack on the left. I'm going to try to drop up here. Right? This is pretty darn freaking easy stuff to do. So again, he ends up moving out here. And I want you to note that anytime you're doing two-tank play, like this, or two-factory play, Jinro does this a lot, and he uses it in big-ass pushes. Big-ass pushes with big-ass tank numbers. Yes, very good. But another important way to use those tanks is a defensive counter-attacky play. I use my tanks to just defend. I do counter-attacky things with my Marines. That is the way to roll. Alright, cool. Continue to look at the minimap. Ooh, the food counts are looking kind of even again. Jinro, ooh, does he have a stranglehold? Oh, I certainly don't know. But here comes a pretty significant moment when Jinro finally begins to try to make use of all those Marines and Marauders. And what does he do? He just runs himself into a bunch of tanks. That was really the most noteworthy moment right there. This is the way that Phoenix has played every Terrorist Terran I used to see him do last semester, right? Just tons of this. I'm going to make so many tanks that once you make a mistake once and engage me, I'm going to have the lead. Suddenly, Select has the lead. And I want you to note the food differential from this 31-minute mark back on this 26-minute mark. Food differential, look at this control Jinro has. Huge amount of space he has to worry about, but he's ahead in food. And then again, why does Select continue to do this poking and prodding? Why does he continue to do this poking and prodding style? Because the instant that the opponent ends up falling behind, look at this. Look at the food count. Select is ahead. Jinro's behind. Jinro still has a huge amount of space he needs to worry about. It's very fragile to be the sort of containing muscular player. And Select ended up rolling on in for the win. So I'm going to come back to me, because that is going to wrap up this edition of a special, very extra Ninja Day 9 daily while on the road. I'm actually just having the sudden horror that maybe I ended up tuning in to this and none of you had sound. Let's go ahead and find out in just a moment whether or not you could hear anything I was saying, because that would make this a fairly anticlimactic daily. But either way, I'd like to emphasize the idea that when Select was really behind and feeling under a good amount of pressure, he relied on the vision plus tank advantage to just inch his way forward, and then later on did a very sort of counter-attacky style of play. In 6 seconds, I'm going to be able to find out if there's any audio coming in. Oh gosh, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Come on, tell me the audio worked. Alright, that's good. That is so cool. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap this up. There's no way to actually stop the stream in the usual way that I do it, or to put up an overlay, so I'm just going to stop right now and say, hey Eric, when you get this, please cut this video. I'm out. I'm going to leave it running. I'm going to leave this running for a little while longer, so that way you can all catch up in the buffer. You guys take care. You are awesome. I am going to go surf the internet. Ciao.